3 hours after moving into the house, I found a second front door hidden behind the kitchen wall. At first, I thought it was just part of the old design. The house was over 100 years old, deep in the countryside, surrounded by dead trees and empty fields that stretched for miles. I had bought it cheap from an estate sale after months of non-stop work and burnout. No family, no friends nearby, just me, finally trying to escape the noise of the city. The previous owner had died alone inside the house. Natural causes, according to the report. But the realtor looked nervous every time the property was mentioned, especially when she handed me the printed house rules. Please leave your worries and your shoes at the door. Thank you. House rules and arrival information. Rule 1. Shut all window blinds before 8 p.m. Rule 2. Do not enter the basement after midnight. Rule 3. If the telephone rings, do not answer it. Rule 4. Ignore any knocking from inside the walls. Rule 5. The room marked private is not part of the house. And the final rule, if you hear a child crying, lock your bedroom door immediately.
At the bottom, someone had written in pen, "Do not let him know you are alone." I remember laughing nervously when I first read it. I thought it was some weird joke left by the previous owner. But I stopped laughing after sunset. The house became different at night. The old wooden floors groaned constantly, even when I stood perfectly still. Pipes rattled inside the walls. Doors slowly drifted open on their own. And every room smelled faintly damp, like wet soil after rain. By 7:45 p.m., I suddenly remembered the blinds. Every single window in the house was still uncovered. Outside, darkness had swallowed the fields completely. I hurried from room to room, pulling the blinds shut, while the sky turned black around the house. The final window was upstairs, at the end of the hallway. And when I reached it, I froze. Someone was standing outside near the tree line, tall, completely motionless. I couldn't see the face, just the shape. Standing there, watching the house, watching me. The moment I grabbed the blinds closed, the telephone rang downstairs. The sound nearly stopped my heart. An old landline phone sat in the kitchen attached to the wall. I hadn't even noticed it earlier because it looked ancient. Then it rang again. Ring, a ring, ring. The house rules flashed through my mind instantly. If the telephone rings, do not answer it. I stared toward the kitchen doorway while the phone continued ringing. Then suddenly, it stopped. Silence. A few seconds later, it rang again. Longer this time. More aggressive. I kept telling myself to ignore it. But curiosity slowly started eating at me. Who would even call a landline in an abandoned house? Finally, after nearly 2 minutes of non-stop ringing, I picked up. The line crackled softly. At first I heard nothing. Then, whispering, a woman crying, "Please help us." I felt my stomach as it tightened instantly. "Who is this?" The woman sounded terrified. "He locked us in the room." Behind her, I could hear a baby crying softly. "He's coming back," she whispered desperately. "Please, don't let him hear you." The line suddenly distorted violently. Then another voice came through. Deep, male. "Did you answer the phone?" My blood ran cold, and then the call disconnected instantly. Silence returned.
I stood, frozen in the kitchen, staring at the receiver in my hand. Then somewhere upstairs, a door slammed shut. I nearly dropped the phone. I was alone in the house. At least, I thought I was. Slowly, I grabbed a flashlight from one of my moving boxes and headed upstairs. Every step creaked beneath my feet. The hallway looked darker now somehow, longer, the air colder. Most of the rooms upstairs were empty, except for old furniture covered with white sheets. But at the very end of the hallway, I noticed something I swear hadn't been there before. A black door, small, narrow, with a faded sign hanging from the knob. Private. I stared at it for several seconds. Then the house rules echoed through my mind again. The room marked private is not part of the house. I don't know why, but those words scared me more than anything else. Then the baby started crying behind the door, soft at first, then louder. A woman began sobbing quietly. "Please." Without thinking, I started moving closer. Then I stopped myself. No. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. The crying abruptly stopped. Then, complete silence. A second later, someone knocked from the other side of the door. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. I backed away immediately. Then the doorknob slowly began turning. Not violently, carefully, like whoever was inside was trying not to make any noise. I ran downstairs. I didn't care if I looked stupid. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to get away from that door. I locked myself inside the kitchen while trying to calm my breathing. Then my phone buzzed. No caller ID, just a text message. "You answered the phone." I stared at the screen in disbelief. Another message arrived instantly. "He knows you are there now." Before I could even react, footsteps creaked upstairs. Slow footsteps, walking across the hallway ceiling directly above me. The baby started crying again, but this time it sounded closer. Much closer. The kitchen light suddenly flickered, then shut off completely. Darkness swallowed the room. Outside, wind slammed violently against the windows. I grabbed my flashlight and slowly pointed it toward the ceiling. Something moved above me. Heavy footsteps crossed slowly overhead, then stopped. Right above the kitchen. Dust drifted down from the ceiling. And suddenly, a man's voice whispered directly into my ear. "You shouldn't have answered." I spun around, screaming. Nobody was there, but the whisper had been right beside me. My flashlight beam shook wildly around the kitchen while panic flooded my chest. Then came another sound. Crawling. Inside the walls. Something was moving through them. Fast. The sound traveled from upstairs down toward the kitchen. Closer. Closer. Then it stopped directly behind the wall near the refrigerator. I held my breath. The wall bulged outward slightly, like something inside was pressing against it. A long scratch slowly dragged across the wallpaper from inside the wall itself. Then another, and another. My phone buzzed again. "Do not look into the walls." Too late. A crack suddenly split open beside the refrigerator, and through that crack, I saw an eye staring back at me. Human. Wide open. Unblinking. Then the wall burst outward. I ran. I bolted from the kitchen into the living room while something crashed behind me.
Heavy footsteps followed me through the dark house, not running, walking, slowly.
Like it already knew I couldn't escape. I reached the front door and yanked it open, but froze instantly. The man from outside was standing on the porch. Tall, thin. His skin looked pale gray beneath the moonlight, and he was smiling. Behind him, the empty fields stretched endlessly into darkness. "You let me inside," he said softly. I slammed the door shut immediately. The footsteps behind me stopped, instantly. Now there were two of them, one outside, one inside. The lights upstairs suddenly flickered back on, and for the first time, I noticed muddy footprints leading across the hallway ceiling, not the floor, the ceiling. My breathing became uncontrollable. Then somewhere upstairs, the woman screamed again.
"Please, save my baby!"
The crying sounded real. Too real. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Against every instinct in my body, I grabbed the flashlight and slowly climbed the stairs again. The private door stood slightly open now. Warm yellow light spilled through the crack. The baby cried softly inside. I approached carefully, then slowly peeked through the opening. My entire body went numb. The room was enormous, impossible, far larger than the house itself. It looked like some old underground hospital stretching endlessly into darkness. Rusted beds lined the walls, chains hung from the ceiling, and dozens of doors covered the distant hallways. Every single one marked private. At the center of the room sat a woman holding a baby. She slowly looked up at me. Tears streamed down her face. "Please help us," she whispered. Then the baby looked at me. Its eyes were completely black. The woman suddenly smiled, too wide. Behind me, the man whispered again, "You looked." Hands suddenly grabbed my shoulders from the darkness. Dozens of hands, cold fingers wrapped around my arms and neck while voices filled the hallway around me. "We have been watching you. We heard you answer. You opened the door." The flashlight slipped from my hand, and the last thing I saw before everything went dark was hundreds of people standing silently inside the impossible room, all staring at me, all smiling. And in the middle of them stood the previous owner of the house, holding a telephone. The police found the house empty 2 days later.
No signs of forced entry, no basement, no second hallway, no room marked private. But they did find one thing, a new sheet of paper taped beside the telephone. House rules updated. Do not answer the phone. Do not open the private door. And if someone new arrives at the house, make sure they answer the phone.